The internet has become my home more so than anywhere else. And when I say that, I mean it's because, like, being on the internet makes me feel like I exist outside of my house. A lot of the things that I do are inside of my house. It's in this room or the other room. There's not much in that regard, but I draw and I paint and I make dolls and I write and I do all of these things to try to keep myself from losing my mind. And I do some of those things on the internet as well. Most of the stuff I create is online. With sewing, with drawing, with painting, and other people watch me do it. I may not have a massive following like most of the content creators out there that are like, you know, watched all the time. But I have fun doing it. And for me, I don't really have other options. I don't have people that seem to be wanting or willing to come visit me and sacrifice the things that they need to sacrifice to actually make that happen. And that hurts to say it out loud, but it's the truth. I just wish things were different, and I find myself hoping and wishing that things are different. And the hoping and the wishing doesn't actually change anything. I've met people on the internet that have told me that they would gladly sacrifice those things for me, and that means the world to me. But the likeliness of me actually being able to see people just seems to be getting like less and less as time goes on. I know these videos, some of them may not be like positive, and the reality is like you can't have the positive without the negative, and you can't have the growth without the hurt. And the reason that I create so much stuff is because I am alone. And I don't get to do things like go over to a friend's place and hang out and have a glass of wine, or go meet my friend at a pub and hang out, or a restaurant and hang out. Like, all of that stuff is just not feasible or plausible, really. And for a long time, like when I started to get really bad reactions to things, people would be like, well, it didn't bother you yesterday, you were fine the other day with this thing. And it's like, no, there's this analogy of a histamine bucket, and how your histamine bucket, once it fills up, that's when anaphylaxis happens. And it's not something that you can control. If you're exposed to things, one thing after the other, and it's this repetition of being exposed to things, eventually your body is just going to go into anaphylactic shock if it's something you're allergic to. But with like mast cell disease, you don't actually have to be allergic to the things to have the allergy, which is why the disease is so deadly and so messed up and so misunderstood. It doesn't make you a liar to have an allergic reaction to something that you may not test positive for on an IgE allergy. Mast cell activation, mastocytosis, and idiopathic anaphylaxis don't work like traditional allergies. They're multisystemic. Yes, anaphylaxis is multisystemic, but the multisystematic component of all of it is what makes it so deadly. The low blood pressure with the vomiting, and then the throat closing, and the bone pain, and the migraine, and the eyes swelling shut, and the tongue getting huge. Like, you don't have to have every single thing, but there's so many different aspects to anaphylaxis. And for me, one of them is vomiting. And if you're puking for like 12 hours straight, what do you think that's doing to your body? Nothing good. He's severely dehydrated. And then there's all the trauma that it's doing to your throat and your esophagus and like your teeth. And then other people just being like, oh, it's just a fragrance. Not just a fragrance, it's a weapon. At this point, it's a weapon that the entire world is using to isolate people who can't be around it. If I'm ever watching YouTube and a video comes up that has like a Tide or Gain commercial on that video, I click off that video. Even if I really wanted to see the video, I won't watch it. That stuff needs to have a warning label. May end your life. May cause bodily harm. They should be kept in a glass case, like they keep cigarettes in a glass case. Shopping malls are terrible. They're heavily scented. And any store, I think, that has fragrances should have to have them behind some sort of case. I still truly believe that fragrances are the new secondhand smoke, and I think that they're slowly gonna harm people that don't have mast cell activation if they aren't already. Who knows what kind of carcinogenic stuff is in those things. And as someone who's had cancer twice and being watched for a third one, and I don't even use fragrances, but I used to. And I didn't even know that I was having a problem with them until I had sprayed some perfume on myself way, way back, maybe 10, 12 years ago. And it gave me a migraine and I felt like I had the flu. And so I changed my shirt, I put my clothes in the hamper, I had a shower and I felt better, and I was like, wait, this makes no sense. What just happened? That was my first indicator there was something wrong. If I wasn't persistent with talking to doctors, about all of the symptoms I was having, I never would have been diagnosed with the things that I was diagnosed with. I probably never would have been able to bubble myself to protect myself. I probably would have died because of other people's ignorance and lack of care for their fellow human. And I'm not sorry if this sounds depressing. I'm not. Living a life inside of a bubble is hard. And every time I leave it, I put my own life at risk. And that is the severity in this ableist society, which keeps trying to make me do things that are putting my life at risk because that's what everybody else can do. I can't. I can't do the things that may be demanded of me because of my safety. What do I have to do to prove that point? Die? How is that fair? It's not. Ableism is the thing that greases the cogs of our society that continues to make it so that people like me are shut down and shut off and not put into the limelight as much. Look at writers and directors. How many of them are disabled? How many of them are women and disabled? How many of them are women and disabled and LGBTQ+? How many script writers or film writers actually are writing from a disabled perspective instead of appropriating the disabled perspective and writing about it as a bad thing, instead of a refining process for which it truly is? Because I believe that people that are in situations similar to mine learn to cope with anything because of what they have been dealt in life. It is amazing to me when I look at other people sometimes and the lack of coping skills for things that I may deem trivial. Because to me, life being threatened isn't trivial. When other people threaten to take my life in the sense of, oh, I'm going to allergy bully you because it's funny. Is that not attempted murder? If people intentionally know you're allergic to something and try to feed it to you, or use a fragrance around you, and then you have detrimental side effects, including having to inject yourself with a bunch of medications so that you don't have to go to the hospital because of the amount of trauma that you have from going to the hospital, from not being believed in the hospital. People outside of similar situations or outside of the scope of chronic illness may never have to think about. But you know what's interesting? Everybody eventually gets sick at some point, whether it's with something that needs hospitalization or not. And when that stuff happens, that is when people realize the gaps and holes in the system, because for a mere moment, they are experiencing those. A mere moment for them has been decades for people like us. Decades of not being heard. Decades of not being given a shit about. Decades of being told that there's nothing they can do. You're basically using your body as an experiment so that you don't die. How is that not traumatic? It is. It's extremely traumatic. And then you find ways to cope. And then when you are coping, other people with similar illnesses shit on you in some sort of messed up way. Oh, you have this. Look at what you're doing though. You're making content. You can't be that bad. Excuse me? I have no friends in real life that are gonna sacrifice the things to come see me. And I just feel like people don't fully grasp that and what needs to happen for them to actually be able to be around me. When people try to bring me down because they are down themselves, it doesn't work. Because I know I'm doing what I need to do to help myself cope. And no one's toxicity telling me that I'm doing too much because I can't be that sick doesn't know the life that I live and doesn't know the isolation that I face. And the only way for me to truly interact with people in the outside world is through the internet. So the minute I stop making videos, the minute I stop streaming on Twitch, means I gave up on myself and on life. And I should never have to feel like what I am doing for myself to cope is a bad thing. And honestly, this whole competition sick, which I've talked about before, is such a constant toxic thing in the chronic illness community, and I absolutely despise it. Celebrate the victories of your fellow disabled and chronically ill friends. Even if they're not your friends and it's a content creator, celebrate it for them. It's a triumph. Because it's hard. It's hard to do this when you're sick. It's really hard to put yourself out there and talk about the things that are deep inside of you and in your soul and in your psyche and express those to people that don't know you, for them to potentially maybe come to understand you. So if someone's got the gumption and the strength and the audacity enough to do it themselves, allow them to do it and lift them up. Stop trying to squash them. Stop it. Like, I am very lucky with my community that they are supportive of me and kind to me and understanding when I have to just like step away from my computer to go inject myself with medication so I don't choke or have my throat closed or whatever on stream. I do truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to me rant and rave about stuff which I don't even know if I'll post this video. But as a chronically ill content creator, I can't just give up. I can't. Because I know what it's like to feel isolated, alone, and forgotten. And I never want any of you to feel that way. Ever. That's why I will keep doing this. That's why I will keep putting myself out there. Because you all deserve to be heard and have your voices amplified. You're not alone. And I'm happy to do what I can when I can. For you guys, for my community. Please take care of you and do something that brings yourself joy today. Thank you for being here for this exceptionally long video. I appreciate it. Take good care, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.